Hi readers, welcome back to my channel, Lila Wanders and Reads, and welcome to a book haul. Lee here. This book haul is actually a combination of a couple book hauls, and lately I've been doing hauls, like last week I think I did an apocalyptic fiction haul, I've done rom-com hauls, where the books I picked out were usually about something I was talking about on Book Talk Tuesday. But this one, like I said, it's a mix of a couple of hauls, but I wanted it to reflect what my reading is really like. So this is a little bit of an eclectic mix. It's got very different books. Some can be called similar, and some definitely not. But I wanted it to reflect my reading as well, if I didn't already say that. First of all, sorry. I have been fighting a cold all day, and by fighting I mean sneezing and blowing my nose repeatedly. So if I sound a little stopped up, that's why. And if I repeat myself, I've kind of got a little cold fog going on. Anywho, on Monday I published my weekend books, and I had last week a meh week. And so far, knock on wood, this week is going much better. But let's get back to the book haul. Book 1 is My Vampire Plus One by Jenna Levine. She is the author of My Roommate is a Vampire, which I have and was going to pull out for this book haul just to compare the two, but I'm not sure where it is. So let's see. Look, I love her covers. I hope that she's good, because otherwise I got 2 books by an author I don't like. But I'm going to lean on the hopeful side. Nothing sucks more than fake dating a vampire in this paranormal romantic comedy. Amelia Collins is by definition successful. She would even go so far as to say successfully single, but not according to her family. She's tired of the constant questions about her non-existent dating life. When an invitation to yet another family wedding arrives, she decides to get everyone off her back once and for all by finding anyone, to pose as her date. After a chance encounter with Reginald Cleves, Amelia decides he's perfect for her purposes. He's a bit strange, but that's fine. It'll discourage tough questions from her family, and it certainly doesn't hurt that he's very handsome. For centuries-old vampire Reggie, posing as her plus one sounds like the ultimate fun, and if it helps his ruse of pretending to be human, so much the better. As Amelia and Reggie practice I've never heard this phrase before, fomance, love it. It becomes clear that Reggie is loyal to her as the day is long, and that Amelia's first impressions could not have been more wrong. Suddenly, being in a real relationship with Reggie sounds pretty fantastic. So the only question I have going into this is, what about the sunlight? I'm not sure. I may end up reading this one first, but it looks like a good time, and I always love a little rom-com. The next book that I picked up over the past couple of weeks is not a rom-com, but Victoria, you may like this one. This is The Mare by Angharad, Hampshire. This is a novel, so this is fiction. I have not done a deep dive into the history of this book, but I will before I read it. Hermine Braunsteiner was the first person to be extradited from the U.S. for Nazi war crimes. Hermine was one of the few thousand women to work as a female concentration camp guard. Prisoners nicknamed her the Mare because she liked to kick people to death. When the camps were liberated, Hermine escaped and fled back to Vienna. Many years later, she met Russell Ryan, an American man holidaying in Austria. They fell in love, married, and moved to New York, where she lived a quiet life as an adoring suburban housewife, beloved friend, and neighbor. No one, not even her husband, knew the truth of her past until one day a New York Times journalist knocked on their door, blowing their lives apart. The Mare tells Hermione and Russell's story for the first time in fiction. It explores how an ordinary woman could descend so quickly into evil, examining the role played by government propaganda, ideology, fear, and cognitive dissonance, and asks why her husband chose to stay with her despite discovering what she had done. I have had this on my wish list for a long time now. I ordered it, I don't remember where I ordered it from. I ordered it or picked it up at Barnes & Noble as soon as it was available. I can't wait to read this. I can't wait to read this, but I am going to wait because I've been having such a meh month. I want to wait until I'm a bit on more of a high because I think this will be a disturbing novel, and I don't want to go into it after having read a bad book. Hopefully my trend is going upwards now. Anywho, one of my favorite things is, dirty little secret here, Hallmark Christmas movies. I love them. I know they're all tropey and they all have a happy ending and they're cringy sometimes, but I love them. I love them and I'm not ashamed of it. But Christmas books are also my favorite. This one, The Merriest Misters, is by Timothy Janovsky, and I've not read anything by that author before. I don't know who they are. Let's see what this book is about. Patrick Hargrave and Quinn Muller have been married for less than a year, but their once passionate romance is cracking under the pressures of domestic life and a cumbersome mortgage. That's until Christmas Eve. Ooh. When Patrick wakes Quinn up with a confession, "I think I killed a man." Quinn realizes the burglar Patrick knocked out is none other than Mr. Claus himself. Instructed by a harried elf to don the enchanted cloak, this is the Santa Claus, and take up the reins of the reindeer-guided sleigh on the roof, Quinn and Patrick save Christmas. But as the sun rises the next morning, the sleigh brings them back to the North Pole instead of New Jersey, and they're in for a massive shock. The couple must assume the roles of Santa Claus and the first ever Merriest Mister, or Christmas will be canceled permanently. With Christmas and their marriage on the line, Patrick and Quinn agree to stay together for one more year. Can running a toy shop together save their relationship, or will Patrick and Quinn be stuffing coal in each other's stockings come next Christmas? I hope this is really good. I don't even remember. I don't remember that this was a take on the Santa Claus. I'm so stoked to read that. I might read that this week. Sorry. Okay. Next up, not about vampires, but it is not about Christmas, but it is similar in spirit to The Mare, in that it talks about the things that men and women do to each other. This is Radio Free Afghanistan, a 20-year odyssey for an independent voice in Kabul by Saad Mohseni and with Jenna Krajeski. Afghanistan will always have a dear place in my heart. I read an article this morning about how Afghan women have been really left behind by the international community, and back in August, the Taliban, in addition to having to cover themselves in public and in front of strangers, Muslim and non-Muslim, women can't make eye contact with men that are not their family, and now they can't even be heard in public because their voice is, I forget the term, but it's intimate, is what it said. So you can't recite, you can't sing. I suppose you can still shop, but you better have a man with you. Anywho. Saad Mohseni, the chairman and CEO of Moby Group, Afghanistan's largest media company, charts a 20-year effort to bring a free press to his country after nearly a decade of Taliban rule, and how that effort persists even after the Taliban's return to power in 2021. This was published, this is new, 2024. I think I bought it, if not this month, then late last month. In the heady early days of the American occupation, Mohseni returns to Kabul, which he last saw as a child before the Soviet invasion. Casting about for ways to be involved in the dawn of a new Afghanistan, Mohseni makes a seemingly chaotic decision to leave behind the comforts of a career in international banking to start a radio station in Kabul with his 3 siblings. This unlikely venture quickly blossoms into a television empire, bringing Mohseni, his family, and his employees into sometimes uncomfortable contact with everyone who has a stake in the country, from the government of Hamid Karzai to the White House officials. Moreover, their radio and television networks soon become a necessary beacon for millions of Afghans who rely on them not just for independent news, but for simple pleasures like soap operas and Afghan Star, a beloved national singing competition in a country whose previous rulers had banned, and would again ban, music. Mohseni's position at Moby's affords him unique insights into this extraordinary yet troubled country, the youngest in the world outside of sub-Saharan Africa, and his powerful account captures the spirit and resilience of the Afghan people, notably the hundreds of men and women still working in Moby's Kabul office today, who once again under Taliban rule create programs, report the news, and educate the public. I'm going to read this. I'm not sure when. I only read fiction. I usually read one nonfiction book a month, and I have another one I might read before I read this. Plus, it's really hard reading about Afghanistan, so we'll see. Next up, completely different to all of those, that is We Burn Daylight, a novel by Bret Anthony Johnston. This is similar to the Mare, and that is about a piece of history that is fictionalized. This is an epic novel of star-crossed lovers set in a doomsday cult on the Texas prairie that asks, what would you sacrifice for the person you love? Waco, Texas, 1993. People from all walks of life have arrived to follow the Lamb's gospel, signing over savings and pensions, selling their homes and shedding marriages. They've come here to worship at the feet of a former landscaper turned prophet who is preparing for the end times with a staggering cache of weapons. Jay's mother is one of his newest and most devout followers, though Jay herself has suspicions about the Lamb's methods and motives. Roy is the youngest son of the local sheriff, a 14-year-old boy with a heart of gold and a nose for trouble, who falls for Jay without knowing of her mother's attachment to the man who is currently making his father's life hell. The 2 teenagers are drawn to each other immediately and completely, but their love may have dire consequences for their families. The Lamb has plans for them all, especially Jay. And as his preaching and scheming move them closer and closer to unthinkable violence, Roy risks everything to save Jay. If you don't already know, this is apparently a book I'm about to start reading as we sit here. This is based on the true events that unfolded 30 years ago during the siege of the Branch Davidians compound. This was published in 2024. I saw this in the book. I saw it on a list somewhere, and I was like, but then I picked it up and read the first couple sentences in the store, and I was like, yeah. So this is an unforgivable love story, a heart-pounding literary page-turner, and a profound exploration of faith, family, and what it means to truly be saved. I might read this next, because I started out this week with a light rom-com, really light, and right now I'm reading a YA, this might be what I need next, is something a little deeper. Anywho, I rarely talk about what I'm reading during book hauls, but I had such a bad week last week that... Anyway, final book from this book haul is Book and Dagger: How Scholars and Librarians Became the Unlikely Spies of World War II. This is written by Elyse Graham. I've not read anything else by her. She's a historian and professor at Stony Brook University, flagship school in the SUNY system. Has written 3 other academic books. Academic? Whatever. Tomato. I bought this because of my interest in World War II. This is most likely going to be my next nonfiction read that I'll start around the 1st of November. Or on the 1st of November. We'll see. At the start of World War II, the U.S. found itself in desperate need of an intelligence agency. The OSS, Office of Strategic Services, a precursor to today's CIA, sorry guys, was quickly formed, and in an effort to fill its ranks with experts, the OSS turned to academia for recruits. Suddenly, literature professors, librarians, and historians were training to perform undercover operations and investigative work. And these surprising spies would go on to profoundly shape both the course of the war and our cultural institutions with their efforts. In Book and Dagger, Elyse Graham draws on personal histories, letters, and declassified OSS files to tell the story of a small but connected group of humanities scholars turned spies. Among them are Joseph Curtis, a literature professor who hunted down German spies and turned them into double agents; Sherman Kent, a smart-mouthed history professor who rose to become the head of analysis for all of Europe and Africa; and Adele Kibra, an archivist who was sent to Stockholm to secretly acquire documents for the OSS. These unforgettable characters would ultimately help lay the foundations of modern intelligence and transform American higher education when they returned after the war. I am definitely looking forward to this. I hope it's really good. Fingers crossed. Anywho, that is it for this eclectic book haul. I am not sure I've logged all of these into my personal library app, so I've got to keep them near so I don't forget to do that. Again, on Monday I posted my weekend books, and I had just come off a meh week. This week is turning out a lot better, and I'm excited to hopefully have that trend continue. Have you done any book hauls lately? I'd love to hear what you're reading. Please let me know down in the comments. If you've read any of these books, I'd love to hear from you as well. That is it for me. Happy reading.